It is almost impossible to imagine the history of rock music without the towering presence of the Beatles. Decades after their breakup, their influence continues to shape popular music, inspiring countless artists across generations. Before the Fab Four arrived, rock and roll was dominated by pioneers such as Chuck Berry and Little Richard. But once four young musicians from Liverpool captured the world's attention, the landscape of popular music changed forever. For many fans, the Beatles' appearance on The Ed Sullivan Show marked the beginning of a cultural revolution. Millions of Americans fell under their spell almost overnight, triggering a phenomenon that would soon be known as Beatlemania. Yet, according to their longtime producer, George Martin, one particular song was responsible for opening the floodgates. Any discussion of the Beatles' success is incomplete without mentioning George Martin. As the producer who worked with the band at Abbey Road Studios, Martin played a crucial role in transforming four talented musicians into one of the most innovative and successful acts in music history. When Martin first encountered the Beatles, they were essentially a hard-working club band forged through countless performances in Liverpool and Hamburg. Their energy was undeniable, but their artistic identity was still taking shape. Martin immediately recognized their potential. His musical knowledge, technical expertise, and willingness to experiment helped push John Lennon, Paul McCartney, George Harrison, and Ringo Starr beyond the limitations of a conventional pop group. Together, they would create a catalog of music that continues to define popular culture more than half a century later. The Beatles quickly developed a reputation for producing hit after hit. Even albums that are sometimes considered weaker entries in their catalog, such as Beatles for Sale, contain beloved songs like 8 Days a Week and Every Little Thing. Long before global fame arrived, however, there was one song that convinced George Martin the band was destined for major success. That song was Please Please Me. The track initially existed as a slower, more traditional ballad. While Martin thought the original version had promise, he believed it lacked the excitement needed to become a hit. After encouraging the band to increase the tempo and inject more energy into the performance, the song was transformed. The result was exactly what Martin had hoped for. The new version possessed an infectious energy that immediately stood out, and he became convinced that the Beatles had recorded their first #1 single. The success of Please Please Me helped establish the group in Britain and demonstrated that Lennon and McCartney were capable of writing songs that could compete with the very best in popular music. While Please Please Me helped launch the Beatles at home, breaking into the American market was an entirely different challenge. Songs such as I Saw Her Standing There showcased the band's growing confidence and songwriting talent, yet it was another track that ultimately achieved what no British group had managed on such a scale before. That song was I Want to Hold Your Hand. With its irresistible melody, explosive energy, and remarkable chemistry between Lennon and McCartney, the song became the perfect introduction to the Beatles for American audiences. Released at the end of 1963 and exploding in popularity in early 1964, it transformed the band's career almost instantly. Looking back on the moment, George Martin saw it as the turning point that changed everything. Eventually, the floodgates opened in America in 1964 with I Want to Hold Your Hand, and from that point on, it was mayhem. For Martin, this was the exact moment when Beatlemania truly began. Once the song climbed to the top of the American charts, the Beatles ceased being a successful British group and became an international phenomenon. The success of I Want to Hold Your Hand unleashed a level of fan hysteria that was virtually unprecedented. Wherever the Beatles traveled, they were greeted by screaming crowds, packed airports, and overwhelming media attention. The demands of their rapidly expanding fame meant that Martin actually spent less time with the band than before. Their schedules became dominated by tours, television appearances, and promotional commitments across the globe. Despite the chaos, Martin watched as four young musicians evolved into cultural icons whose influence extended far beyond music. The impact of I Want to Hold Your Hand extended beyond commercial success. It also set off a chain of events that would profoundly influence the Beatles' artistic development. Among those intrigued by the band's rise was Bob Dylan. Fascinated by their popularity, Dylan famously misheard one of the song's lyrics, believing Lennon and McCartney were singing "I Get High" rather than "I Can't Hide." That misunderstanding became one of rock music's most famous anecdotes and helped initiate a friendship between Dylan and the Beatles. Their relationship exposed the group to new artistic ideas and perspectives that would shape their future creative direction. The influence became increasingly apparent in albums such as Rubber Soul, where the band moved beyond straightforward pop songs and began to explore more sophisticated songwriting, introspective themes, and innovative studio techniques. The song that changed everything. It may be an exaggeration to credit a single song with determining the entire course of the Beatles' career. Nevertheless, it is difficult to deny the significance of "I Want to Hold Your Hand." The song was more than a chart-topping hit. It was the spark that ignited a cultural phenomenon, opening the door to worldwide success and establishing the Beatles as the defining musical force of their era. No one could have predicted just how enormous that success would become. Yet from George Martin's perspective, "I Want to Hold Your Hand" was the moment the floodgates opened and history began. What followed was Beatlemania, a global movement that transformed not only the Beatles themselves, but the entire landscape of popular music forever.